Hello everyone. I think we have some interesting news about ongoing de-dollarization and reserve currency future to talk about. There was a lot of new information coming from India, China and Russia lately. I think it's very important for any investor to pay attention to that region. Ignore at your peril. I think it has big implications for owners of gold and silver especially. These countries are major producers and importers of precious metals. What happens to demand and supply in this region will affect asset prices throughout the world. But more importantly, this region is changing the way geopolitics worked for the last 100 years. The effect is not likely to be immediate, big changes take time to develop. But we can see it and should position ourselves accordingly. By the way, most of you who took a poll think that gold prices are set to go higher. Thanks for your input, I happen to agree, but we will see. But back to the topic. Let's take a look at another interesting piece of data. There was an article by Reuters about sale of Russian coal to India which was paid for in yuan by a trading firm in Dubai. I think Reuters is a reputable source when it comes to fact-checking, and this article seems facts-based and not an opinion, so I decided to share. Last thing, I would want to propagate rumors. So, as you can see from a short synopsis I provided, we have a lot to dig in. Let's take it apart. First off, as we can see from the title of the article, the trade was done by a top cement company in India. The significance of this fact is in the implication. Any major business in any country would consider consequences of its actions. Think about all American businesses taking a flight from Russian markets. No one wants to be sanctioned, so they prefer to lose hard-won market share and investment. So, this situation with companies from India is something very different. This tells me this transaction was at least not opposed by the government. In fact, it could also have been even encouraged. Any company with a lot to lose would have made sure that the business is safe, given the sensitive nature of the situation. The amount was not substantial, just $28 million equivalent. But what was important can be summarized by the words of a currency trader. This move is significant. I have never heard any Indian entity paying in yuan for international trade in the last 25 years of my career. This is basically circumventing USD. This is a very important part of this news. There were other orders placed with Russian traders using the same method. Another less obvious but equally important detail of this article is the location. Dubai. As we know, oil from Arab Peninsula was a foundation of U.S. reserve currency status in 80s and 90s. Petrodollar was U.S. answer to the United States default on gold standard during Nixon administration. If you buy oil from Saudis, you needed dollars. Now, it's a bit ironic, but Saudis are at a forefront of de-dollarization. That tells you all you need to know about prospects of petrodollar. If you are curious, I will put a link in the description to my video on petrodollar. Why is this news important for any holder of US assets, especially gold and silver? Let's talk. I have been talking about this issue on my channel for a while. Whole US economy is based on dollar being the reserve currency. If you think it is an exaggeration, see US trade balance. US imports goods and basically exports dollars. Why would anyone take paper money for real goods? Because you can use it to pay for your dollar-denominated debts or buy dollar-denominated goods and services internationally. And in many cases, dollar is the only currency that can be used. This is the only reason. That's why Federal Reserve Chairman places the stability of US dollar at the top of his priorities as the primary goal of the current Fed policy. And this policy is successful. The dollar is at its 20-year high due to its status as a reserve currency and safe haven asset. But the article and the news like this really throw the doubt about the whole reserve currency idea. If you have another option, you might not go with dollar anymore. And it's a huge change for the international world order. China was building up its financial influence over the last decade. If you think latest attempts by US to kick Chinese business from access to US capital markets or advanced semiconductor tech, or access to US research is just an accident, think again. Any empire in history was trying to prolong its reign by stifling the growth of its colonies. It was done by Spanish with Brazil, by English with India and China. China has learned from history well. They realize the importance of the currency as a tool to win international competition, and they have enough market share in the world economy to assert bigger influence on the world stage, promoting yuan as an alternative to US dollar. Consider following. China is the biggest exporter in the world as of 2021. Share in international trade is a prerequisite of being a reserve currency, besides deep and liquid financial markets. This is why news like this trade in yuan are important. The more dollar gives up its place as a reserve currency, the more precarious place of dollar and US economy will be. And this plays well into a narrative of gold and silver ownership. If strength of dollar internationally diminishes, the role of real money like gold and silver in your portfolio will increase. This is why I believe paying attention to international trends has importance. It is better to be prepared than to be caught off guard. Now let's talk some geopolitics. Latest entries into BRICS bloc of countries were Iran and Argentina. Iran is not a surprise. This country was abused by US dollar dominance for decades, from embargoes to freezing of assets. But Argentina is a whole new story. Argentina was historically more aligned with Western countries. This country was dependent on IMF and World Bank grace for years, and by extension, it is very much plugged into the dollar scheme. Currently, Argentina is going through a major inflationary phase, which is also very much a consequence of dollar being expensive, as it is making it harder to pay off dollar-denominated debt. Could it be that Argentina is looking for a new alliance to get away from the dollar dependency? Maybe, time will tell. I think US and G7 are making a big mistake by making G7 an exclusive club of old countries. BRICS, on the other hand, made a point at its last conference to invite anyone who wanted to trade. To wrap it up, I would point out this headline by Financial Times. Central banks to look to China renminbi to diversify foreign currency reserves. I will leave it up to you to dig into that article. All I would say is if you are still listening to US government officials, you might be putting yourself at risk. I am not a financial advisor. Everything I say is my personal opinion only, and you should do your own research. I just hope I do my part to elevate your awareness and help you to protect yourself. As always, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and like if you found this information useful or entertaining. Until next time.